Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be updating my PvP tier list. This one's definitely tilted more in the favor of solo shuffle. So if that's a bracket in particular that you want to focus on, these are the specializations that I think are rock stars and are likely to deliver you success. Some of them require a little bit more investment than others, and I will note that as we're going through, if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to play or somebody who wants to invest a lot towards your success. And as always, if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, a lot of specializations I underrated very heavily, and this is mostly attributed to the 4-set bonuses actually being remarkably powerful and empowering to certain specializations, irregardless of the fact that they're nerfed by like 70% plus in PvP. First specialization up here is Affliction Warlock. Affliction Warlock is definitely solid. We saw some of its play in the recent tournament at Gamescom. I wouldn't say that it is the worst caster. It's definitely a lot better than it has been in previous patches, and I might be giving it a bit of a surprisingly high ranking on this tier list, but it seems to be doing really well at the moment. I think I'm going to be jumping on mine, actually. I haven't been able to play a lot. I've been out of town, obviously, and I've been sick, but I'm giving it a little bit of a higher ranking than I normally would, up onto A tier at the moment. I think that it's very well-rounded. And actually does a really high amount of damage. Seems to be much more durable as well. I think with the stat increase, it's easier to get casts off. You're tankier with higher stamina. Especially you benefited from the trinket stamina boost that happened in a previous reset. Arcane Mage, I think, is very obvious S tier. This guy can just slap out basically 10 million plus crits. I've seen some 12 million plus crits. Being able to absolutely KO somebody is definitely going to be a very valuable resource. You also have really good mobility, even despite them bringing down some of your mobility throughout some of the more recent changes that you've received to Arcane. It's definitely a go-to, but it's not an easy one. This is one where you're going to have to put a little bit more effort into. Same with Affliction. These guys aren't, you're going to log on and see S or A tier results. It's once you've put in time and mastery towards them that you're going to be able to accomplish those types of aims. Arms Warrior is really good at the moment. I think Arms and Fury are almost equally strong. I'm going to be slapping Arms Warrior up onto A tier for now. I think defense is the main thing. Again, holding Fury and Arms Warrior from S tier. You can kind of get smacked around a little bit by some of the S tier specializations, but you've got really good synergy with almost everything in the game, which is definitely very important to your viability. Rogue specializations, I think, are a hot topic when it comes to viability. Like, which one is the best? Which one's the easiest? I get those questions all the time. Assassination Rogue at the moment, I want to say in Shuffle, is likely the strongest of the three. I think the overall sustained damage, the King's Bane one-shots with the coins that I need to respec and try myself are definitely leaning me to believe that Assassination Rogue might actually be the best rogue spec. When it comes to Shuffle, obviously in Tournament, we saw Subtlety and Outlaw, and it's because I think those specs enable Arcane Mages better than Assassination. But as a standalone in a solo queue environment on the ladder, I think Assassination's kind of sustained damage and ability to power over targets by itself is more valuable than the damage output that I'm really able to see out of Subtlety or Outlaw at the moment. Balanced Druid is definitely an S tier, putting this up as maybe the best range DPS in the game at the moment. Again, much like Affliction, is benefiting from the increase in haste. Faster clones, you're decently durable now in bear form with the stamina increase as well to slow down some of those points in the game. But much like these classes, it's going to require a little bit more of an investment, but maybe less, honestly, than Affliction or Arcane to get it off the ground. But it is a really good one to go for at the moment. Beast Mastery Hunter. So Hunter specializations, often they're in contest, what's the word I'm looking there? I can't think of the word that's looking there. I'm still a little bit recovering from being sick, but basically it's a debate between the three specializations and which is the best. And honestly, right now, that debate is really hard. It is really hard as to which one is the best. I think Beast Mastery Hunter is easy, simple, instant cast gameplay that can be played from range at a safe distance, which makes it really beginner friendly. But I'm not sure if I think that it's the strongest of all of the options at the moment. So I'm going to put Beast Mastery on A tier at the moment. Really well-rounded, solid pick. But I think S tier might need to be reserved for something really in particular. Demonology Warlock, I was saying is the best Warlock spec, but I think Affliction is very competitive with it. I think that they're probably very close to the same. Maybe Demonology slightly better, which is why I'm putting it to the left, to the right. Could be a little bit better than it, but it's really close. It's really competitive. Destruction Warlock, again, in Battlegrounds, it's the best lock spec. But in Solo Shuffle, I think you're a little bit more flimsy. Can be a bit harder to get finishing power off relative to Demonology or Affliction. I think it's a little bit worse. Not that it's like unviable, but I think just the spells that you have to hardcast are way more difficult to actually achieve. Maybe this changes as we get more gear stats, higher haste. Maybe this starts to shift and they're a little bit more equal. I definitely think the balance of hunter spec, warlock spec, even mage spec to some extent is a lot better than it's been in previous expansions. Think about that, guys. You play a class that has 3 DPS specs and those are all balanced. Like what's going on there? Devastation Evoker, don't really see it a lot. This is honestly a hard one that's to rank. I think it's directly countering melee DPS. So if you're low rated, you're queuing into a lot of rets, a lot of ballet, Devastation Evoker can be really good for you. It's straightforward, it's easy. Just spam Disintegrate and fly around in a circle and no one can touch you. As you start to get higher rated, I think it starts to get more exploitable at the moment. So for me, Devastation Evoker, it's a really hard one for me to rank because I feel like if I put it below Affliction, like I'm trolling, but I don't know if I want to say that it's this high. This just goes to show how balanced the game actually is outside of some one-shots, and that's really what I'm hoping that they're going to focus in on when it comes to tuning adjustments, because it's very difficult to decide where the specializations should go this patch, which means they've done a really good job as far as balance, which is why I think a lot of people are like, I'm actually having a lot of fun right now, ignoring the 12 billion barrage crit that goes across your face every once in a while. Discipline Priest, still really well-rounded, solid output, fun healer to play. If you're someone who wants faster Qs and more of kind of a DPS vibe, you're going to get that out of Discipline. I think that's why it still remains to be the most popular healer in the bracket, and it's still a solid option for solo shuffle. I'm going to slap it onto A. I don't think that it's S. I think some other healers might be better than it on average, but it's still a really good, well-rounded pick. Elemental Shaman, again, I don't see it as much as I was really anticipating for this patch, but I think it's still really good. That's the surprising element of it. Surprising element. Okay, that was an unintended joke. Sometimes I say something funny unintentionally and we need to take credit for that because I'm naturally not very funny. So please type LOL in the comment section for that unintentional joke, unplanned, improvised moment here. But Elemental Shaman is very shocking. It still has a lot of good instant cast damage, instant burst. I would find it hard to believe that it's not at least A, if not S. I'm going to put it actually like the top of A tier at the moment, even though I really don't really see it a lot. I'm trying to understand why we don't see it a lot, because I think it's still just as good as it was before. There's no reason it wouldn't be. Enhancement Shaman, now this is a spec that I've ranked very low in the past, like D tier most of the time. Big Dam is an Enhancement Shaman that just specializes in it. He plays it 24/7. I copied his talents, copied his homework, played it a bit. It felt a lot better playing his build. So I definitely think this is one where your build matters a lot. If you don't have the right loadout, it's going to be very struggle bus. But I'm still going to kind of hold it in reservations in B tier, but it's definitely not down at D tier. Feral Druid, this guy has kind of fallen off. I don't see a lot of them. I think it's a little bit squishier than a lot of the other melee available at the moment. Burst damage seems to be really high from a lot of the other melee that are currently available. I might be giving Feral... Am I crazy? Because I almost want to put it on B, but it's like, is it really enhancement? There's no way, right? I'm going to put it on A, slap it in here with Arms Warrior and Assassination Rogue. I don't think it's S tier like it was previously. I think it's lost its edge a little bit there. Fire Mage actually is really good at the moment. It's definitely at least B or if not A tier. It has a really good damage profile currently. I think I'll just... For safety reasons, I'll put it down in B tier, just under Destruction Warlock, but it's very close to sneaking into A tier. I think defense could maybe be a little bit of an issue for it, especially with Hunters and how many Hunters there actually are at the moment. Frost Mage, I still think is really good. This is where we're going to get into problems, between Frost and Fire. I'm going to put Frost like just under Fire, but they're very close. Again, like these are so indiscernibly different, or an indiscernible difference between them in terms of power that they're almost interchangeable at this point. You're not really going to feel too much of a weakness, although I will say you probably notice a pretty significant drop off between Arcane and these two, but between these two, it's really close to kind of bungeeing in there into the A tier. Frost Death Knight, still really good go-to, lots of damage, really good spot to be a Frost DK. Gonna slap it in onto A tier. Only thing holding it back from S tier, a little bit of a weakness to Hunters at the moment, weakness to Windwalkers, Warriors, there's a lot of them. And it's a little bit predictable in terms of its burst damage, but it's way better than it's been in a lot of previous patches. Fury Warrior, I think, is probably just like in here, probably just under Arms or something like that, just right side by side. Really good damage output at the moment. Definitely carrying it forward. We got a couple changes for them moving into this patch a few weeks into it, and yeah, they're definitely feeling the benefits of it. Finally, I think we're going to get into our first S tier specialization for melee, which I think Havoc Demon Hunter definitely is. It's very tanky. It has the lowest death rate of any DPS in the game. So if you're someone who doesn't like dying, play a Demon Hunter, because statistically it's in your odds that you are not going to be the target or not be easily taken down. Really high damage output, really good synergy with a bunch of different specs in the game. Well-rounded kit, has basically everything. It's just the Batman utility belt. Just any situation, it's got an answer. And rogues aren't as prevalent, right? So like Subtlety Rogue in particular is not as prevalent, so you're kind of able to run away with a lot of these lobbies. Holy Priest, I think, is an S tier healer at the moment. There's really good throughput, really good sustain. Set bonus is definitely benefiting it very heavily for Oracle. We saw JT using that at the Gamescom tournament. Definitely transfers over into ladder gameplay as well. Holy Paladin, I think, is really good, but can have a little bit of issues with getting trained down with mana. I'm going to drop it down to A tier with Discipline Priest. I think Holy Priest is still a little bit of a cut above it at the moment. But it's still really well-rounded healer. Simple, easy to pick up, especially if you're playing Herald of the Sun. Would definitely recommend it. Healer balance is honestly very, very close as well. So you're not going to feel like a staggering drop off in power, I think, regardless of any healer that you pick at the moment, which is a good thing. But I'm just trying my best to identify any sort of advantage towards some of them. But just because this guy's like up here, this is not like off a cliff difference. These are like very minute differences in power between them. Marksmanship Hunter, I really want to put this onto S tier. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to put it onto the high of A tier, but I really want to put it onto S tier because you just get like 10 million Black Arrow crits. You get massive aim shots. You can get shut down by disarms and things like that, but it's like Rogue's not really that popular at the moment, which would be the #1 spec for shutting you down. Warrior you can kind of deal with a little bit easier than Rogue as far as kiting. I really want to I'm slapping it onto S tier. I don't care. I don't care what you guys say. There's going to be 3 range specs on S tier. Whatever you say in the comments, have your way, but I think this guy just absolutely mows people over. He's the easiest to play also of the 3 in the S tier to see immediate results. Mistweaver Monk, solid pick overall. I think the drop-off in mage popularity, at least from Fire and Frost, definitely helping you out, but Hunter is also really hard to deal with. It's still pretty popular, and those are like the main classes that counter you, so if you got lobbies with lots of Warlocks and Shadow Priests, you can feel really strong. I think it's a little bit too lobby dependent for me to say that it's S tier. So I'm going to kind of slap it up here onto A tier, mostly just because it's a very polarizing healer where you can feel really strong in some lobbies and very weak in others, completely dependent on the DPS specs that are in the lobby for you to face. Outlaw Rogue, now it won the tournament, so obviously it's the best spec in the game, right? I think it's the best spec to enable Arcane Mage, right? Tricks of the trade, buffing Arcane Barrage crits, and you stun everything, you're pretty tanky. I think it was just the best spec to set up Arcane. I don't think it was the best shuffle spec. So for me, I think Outlaw, like at best in Shuffle, assuming you have the set bonus, you're playing the coin build, is maybe a B tier at best in Shuffle, but I still think it's the weakest spec. Definitely a lot better than the C or the D tier where I had it before, but I think in Shuffle situations it's still lacking the finishing power on its own to be able to win games. Preservation Evoker, really fun to play at the moment, has a lot of damage, a lot of healing output, but I think because of range issues in Shuffle, teammates not stacking up, not playing around you, pulling you in bad spots, I think it holds it back as a healer in Shuffle. I think it's actually a lot weaker because of that. So this might come as a bit of a surprise to some, but I'm actually putting it on B tier. And I think it's mostly just due to its mechanics not being great in an uncoordinated environment. It's not necessarily that its output's bad, but if you get in a situation where like, oh my god, this guy's pulling me really deep, but this other guy's kiting away, it becomes really hard to recover. So I think that it is going to be noticeably more difficult to heal in those types of situations. Restoration Shaman for Shuffle, I think it would be unwise for me to not put it on S tier because it's the most popular healer at the moment. It's really solid, lots of output, lots of throughput. Grounding Totem is really good in this meta with Arcane Mage and stopping the cheesy one-shots that come through from all the casters. But can struggle with Rets. It can struggle with the Warriors. In those situations, you're going to be really good with your static fields, your thunderstorms. Again, Shaman up in S tier is not necessarily like you're walking into Rest of Shaman for the first day and you're going to dominate people. It's going to require a little bit more of an investment in order to see success. Resto Druid, I think, isn't as great. Don't want to put it down with Preservation Evoker. I kind of do. I just feel like its healing output isn't as high. I think it can fall behind. I think like the Kleptomania builds from Arcane, the Purges from Hunters, Shaman Purges, it can be a little bit more difficult to deal with. I don't think it's completely awful. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I would say it's the weakest healer. I kind of want to say it's the weakest healer, but not by a lot. That's why I said like, the healer bounce is really good. I feel like if I put it here, people are like, wait, what? Is it B tier? Is it the worst healer? This might be the first like controversial pick, honestly, for me out of all the specs so far. Let me know in the comments if you completely disagree with things that I've ranked so far here. But I think Resto Druid can have a harder time in shuffle environments than others. Retribution Paladin, I think we all know where this is going. Oop, right here in the number 1 spot. You're just remarkable damage. 4-set bonus with Hammer of Light is ridiculous, much like Marksman. These two guys are like just really easy peasy specs to jump on S tier and get results. These guys are a little bit more challenging, but once you've mastered them, can definitely get you the same types of results. Shadow Priest, I think, is really good. Very tanky, very durable. Putting it on A tier. I think the double Shadow Crash is nice. I think I've had it here the entire time with all my tier lists, and there's no reason to really move it anywhere else. Subtlety Rogue. This might come as a surprise, but I'm actually putting Subtlety Rogue as maybe the lowest spec. Is it worse than Outlaw? I feel stupid for putting it worse than Outlaw is the only thing. I kind of maybe want to drop Outlaw down here. But Subtlety is kind of lacking the finishing power. Now, I played it last season, 2400, made guides on it. I need to get more gear on it before I think I really lock it in at a ranking, but I feel like its finishing power is much lower, especially in Shuffle. And a bunch of these guys are just Paladins kind of countering you as Rogue. They bonk your DRs a lot and you can't do a lot. I actually think that they're kind of weak at the moment. And now this guy, Survival Hunter, this guy was like down here in my first tier list, but I'm jumping this guy up into S tier. Probably the biggest surprise of the patch, but it does remarkable damage. I've been playing in full green gear and I'm absolutely dominating. So I can't imagine once I actually get some of the set bonuses that are really strong, weapon, because I'm wearing like a green crit weapon. Survival Hunter is super underrated. It's really strong. Previously Marksman BM were overshadowing it, but I think right now you are really strong. Honestly, probably one of the sleeper specs that might go under the radar as far as nerfs, because it's just not that popular, not really that seen. Hopefully this tier list doesn't get you guys hit too hard, but Survival, yeah, it's really good. I've been having a lot of fun with it lately. Unholy DK, still really good. I think maybe like A tier, like the highest of A tier. Really good pick, just solid damage output at the moment, good control, lacks Mortal Strike, so sometimes you can get lobbies where you don't have a Mortal Strike, the other team does, and it can be a little bit messy, but overall I think it's still really good. Windwalker Monk, same deal. I think kind of close here with Warrior. Really good pick, solid durability, good damage output. Can struggle a little bit with the mages, especially with Arcane, trying to connect to them, but it's still a really well-rounded pick and an awesome option. Augmentation Evoker, I honestly don't see ever, so it's very hard to rank it. I know it's probably still got a cheesy one-shot, which is definitely going to make it viable. But as far as like really strong, I don't know if it's like really strong. So I'm going to hold this one in reservations. Maybe just put it down here into B tier to be safe. But it's kind of just a cheesy, wonky spec. So if you want to play a cheesy, wonky spec, go ahead for it. Go for it. One-shot people and run around in circles hoping that you don't die until you can one-shot them again. But that's just kind of how it's currently designed with its output. But those are my thoughts on the specializations so far. A lot of curveballs, a lot of unexpected results for specs, even regardless of the fact that maybe there weren't even any changes for a lot of them, which I think is a good thing. I think that this season has mixed up a lot of specs, which is nice. You know, we've seen Frost dominating forever, right? How long has it been? Survival's been at the bottom forever. It's really having a chance. DKs are actually having an opportunity here. Hopefully you guys don't get too big of a nerf hammer. Rogue's definitely on the weaker side. Not completely unviable, and I think, again, it's going to require me to get a little bit more gear, but I think when it comes to Shuffle, people DRing your stuns, your lack of your ability to kind of take the game into your own hands relative to a lot of other specs, and the difficulty and complexity of your class is definitely aiding in my ranking for it at the moment. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the update. Going to be streaming every day as always, so if you'd like to follow along in my journey on different specializations and trying to help you guys out to the best of my abilities, then make sure to follow along. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.